All right, so let's take ourselves back to 2019. That's when the United States took a real game-changing step and said enough's enough. We're not going to let adversaries like China or Russia hold the high ground unchallenged. The United States Space Force, the first new military branch since 1947, was established under President Trump. That's not just a headline, folks. It's strategic defense history in the making. Now, for those of you not tracking, the Space Force didn't pop out of thin air. It was built on the foundation of the Air Force's Space Command. That branch did solid work, but it was time to evolve, to really modernize and match up to today's threats. Space isn't just some science fiction frontier anymore. It's a warfighting domain, just like air, land, and sea. The creation of the Space Force marked our commitment to not just being in the game, but dominating it. The mission? Simple, at least on paper. Keep America's space assets safe and operational. That means protecting satellites, ensuring our ability to operate freely, and outpacing the tech and capabilities of potential adversaries. You've got tens of thousands of satellites up there now, with more crowding in every day. Space has become congested, contested, competitive, and we're on alert, keeping watch for threats, whether it's hypersonics from rivals or orbital debris that could send multi-million-dollar assets crashing out of the sky. But it's not just about defense, it's also about space domain awareness, keeping our eyes on everything up there, 24/7. We can't allow a blind spot. Lives depend on missile early warning systems, secure satellite comms, and the GPS networks running every bit of tech from your smartphone to military targeting systems. The Space Force took all that responsibility and said, let's own this. This branch wasn't formed for show, no sir. It's a response to a clear and growing need, a capability gap that had to be filled. Look, when adversaries are sending up anti-satellite missiles or testing high-powered lasers, America needs boots, or satellites, in the sky to counter it. And that's where the Space Force stepped in as the backbone of U.S. efforts to protect and maintain dominance in the final frontier. All right, folks, let's zero in on the boots, or should I say satellites, on the ground here. Space Force personnel, better known as Guardians, are tackling the most critical missions in the space domain. These aren't just techs in labs. They're the ones making sure our GPS systems stay operational, not just so your Maps app works, but so military teams on the front lines can count on pinpoint precision. It's gotta work 24/7. Failure's not an option when lives are on the line. And let's talk early warning missile defense. Those systems? Absolutely vital. If someone's firing a hypersonic at the homeland, or anywhere our allies operate, you better believe those Guardians are the ones catching it first, sounding the alarms. They say space is the high ground of war. No doubt about it when you consider that these systems make the difference between being prepared or blindsided. Then there's satellite comms, which connect everything from battlefield units to command centers. Without solid communication channels, you might as well be fighting blind. And the cyber defense missions? That's where these men and women are standing on the front lines of a whole different battlefield, defending against adversaries prowling for vulnerabilities in our networks. It's all interconnected, all mission critical. Now, if you think this mission is limited to American interests, think again. The Space Force hasn't just been playing lone wolf here. Look at NATO, coordinating to bolster joint defenses. Or take the Space Chiefs Summit this past year in Colorado Springs. 18 nations pooling resources and strategy to keep the space environment safe. Allies like India and Japan, they're stepping forward to help protect our shared assets, because no one can afford to fall behind in this race. And here's a real-world example of how these efforts pay off. Ukraine. The Space Force supported the deployment of Starlink communications when traditional systems were disrupted. No troops on the ground, just strategic support from Guardians who know how to adapt to any situation. The ability to provide reliable communication, even in crisis zones like that, is just one example of why this branch is essential, not just for combat, but for operational readiness in every corner of the globe. Now, this chapter hits close to home for me. Challenges and innovations. Look, founding a new branch like the Space Force isn't just slapping a sticker on the old Air Force playbook. It's about creating something unique, something tailor-fit for this new warfighting domain. That's why we've got units like Space Deltas, each with a specific mission focus, from satellite operations to cyber defense. It's not one-size-fits-all. It's precision-tailored, laser-focused execution. And here's another thing setting the Space Force apart: their style. Yeah, I'm talking about those new futuristic uniforms and rank insignias. It's not just for looks, all right? A Delta emblem, bold hexagonal designs. These are visuals that scream, we're looking ahead, guarding the frontier. They're a symbol of commitment to a domain that demands innovation and forward thinking. But innovation only goes so far without strategy. And the challenges, man, they're piling up as fast as orbital debris. Just look at the numbers. 44,000 objects tracked daily, and adversaries out there ready to test those boundaries. China's anti-satellite weapons? Russia's interference with allied systems? These threats aren't hypothetical. They're happening right now. Managing that, on top of protecting our own networks from cyber attacks, is why the Space Force doesn't get a break. Cyberspace and outer space intersect here, folks, and we can't afford to lose ground in either. Now, let's talk future-ready. Integrating tech like quantum computing? That's not just a buzzword. It's Space Force actively outpacing rivals while bolstering secure communications and defensive capabilities. Then there's global partnerships, like the incredible collaboration coming out of the Space Chiefs Summit with over 18 nations rallying under a shared goal, keeping space safe, operational, and free from bad actors trying to disrupt the balance. But the pace isn't slowing. If anything, the rapid expansion of commercial ventures, think SpaceX and others, only complicates the environment further. The Space Force is stepping up to synchronize public, private, and international efforts. Their job? Ensure the playing field doesn't tilt, protecting assets critical for both innovation and survival. That's the dual-front battle of today's guardians, tech and security, hand in hand. So to wrap it up, I'll say this. This nation's investment in the Space Force is proof that we're not resting on our laurels. Because, folks, the race for space dominance? It's not some sci-fi pipe dream. It's today's reality. And it's high time America stays ahead, not just to compete, but to lead. And that's exactly what the Space Force is doing, one challenge, one innovation at a time. And that's all for today, folks. Keep your eyes on the stars and your boots firm on the ground. Until next time, this is Duke Johnson, signing off.